With the Two Ronnies, size mattered. Together, Big Ronnie Barker and Little Ronnie Corbett were amongst TV's biggest stars in the 1970s and 80s, with big shows that got very big ratings. They had a magic, audience-pleasing formula. There were always the joke news report, some wordplay from Ronnie B, a monologue from Ronnie C, a comedy song, and a good night from me and a good night from him. Much of that classic material was written by Ronnie Barker himself, which is something we see him talk about in this encounter with Michael Parkinson.
A quote for you. Wildly berserk, a coordinated clown, expressively bizarre. That's how he comes across on the screen. But it's all rather like the sober clerk getting tiddly at the office party. Away from his disguises, he's almost indecently normal, bland, innocuous, and polite. End of quote. Here tonight, minus disguises, Ronnie Barker. Indecently normal.
What?
Indecently normal.
Yes. Well, normally indecent. But, indecently normal. Yes, I'm very normal. Yes, yes, almost to the point of indecency. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I'm married with a wife. Well, you have to. If you're married,
right.
you have to have a wife.
Absolutely.
And I've got 3 children, one of each. And I live in a house with 4 walls and 2 roofs.
2 roofs.
Yes. The one. And that one's over the house.
But are you...
Yes, I like this.
You like it?
Wall-to-ceiling carpet. It's lovely.
Part of the BBC's economy drive.
Yes, very nice.
Do you, in fact, I mean, I took that quote out of context in a sense, but the sense
Yeah,
of all
the
the articles that one reads about you is that, in fact, you are a shy man, normally. Is that so?
Yeah, I'm shy when there are more than 3 people in the room. Yeah. Yes. No, yes, I can't, always asked to, I can't even be a best man at a wedding, for instance.
Really?
I can't make speeches. I'm always obviously getting letters, say, will you make a speech? And I'm very shy. I'm shy at the moment. I once tried to open a fete. And tried to make a speech to open a fete, and I just couldn't,
Really?
The fete just wouldn't open. I couldn't get it open.
But I mean, that's extraordinary, you see, because, I mean, how on earth do you therefore appear in public? I mean, how do you appear on television, for instance?
I'm always wondering. It's luck, I suppose. No, I have to hide behind a character, really. I can't be myself. I feel I have no personality, So I pull on a character, put on a moustache and
you literally
and
disguise yourself and feel quite comfortable.
Oh, yes, I'm fine.
Doing that.
Yeah.
You were also a writer, too, of course. I mean, you've written some very, very good stuff, very good comedy material. Has that ever been affected by your shyness at all? Have you ever been too shy to reveal yourself as a writer?
Oh, yes. Well, when I first started writing seriously, I think seriously started writing comedy, if that makes sense, in Frost on Sunday, which I'm afraid was on the other side. But we soon brought it over here and called it the Frost Report, or was it the other way around? No, other way around. Anyway, I started writing in Frost on Sunday, but I didn't want to present Ronnie Corbett and the director with a sketch, and they had to say, that's very good, very nice, when it was awful, you see. So I wanted a sketch, if it got on, to be done under its own merits,
Yes.
And so I called myself Gerald Wiley and sent in a sketch from my agent. I got him to farm it in and said it was some strange recluse who lived in the country and wrote novels, but he thought he'd like to try his hand at writing sketches. And luckily they loved them for the first 2 weeks, And no, we did them, and they said, we've great new find, Gerald Wiley. I said, yes, very good, and pretended not to understand parts of them,
Yeah.
What does this mean here, and all that. And then I suppose it was the 3rd week I did one, and the editor came in, the script editor, and said, Wiley's dropped a clanger this week, he said. Load of rubbish, he said. I said, is it really? Well, let's have a look, and read it through. I said, oh, yes, absolutely hopeless. Chuck it out. We chucked it out, you see, which means that it worked, for me, that worked. That was just what I wanted, so that if I thought I'd written a good sketch and other people didn't think so, then they threw it out, and that was great.
And your disguise was complete, in fact.
Yes, and
anonymous.
I kept it hidden for a long time.
Well, all right, but how long did it, or how, in fact, was the secret discovered?
I wrote a sketch about the doctor's waiting room, and Ronnie Corbett loved it. It was all. I had 3 lines, and it was featured Ronnie, who came into a doctor's waiting room, and no one would talk to him, as people don't talk, you know. And he said, "Hello, good morning, good morning, morning," and no one said anything, you know. So he started reading funny bits out of the paper, and no one laughed, you know. So then he sang a little song. He stood up and sang a song. Then he did a full Fred Astaire all over the table. Nobody noticed, you know. And then he finished this great thing, and then suddenly got a round of applause, you know. And it was a sketch like that, and everyone eventually in the waiting room all joined in and all sang a song. So he loved this, and he said, "I'd like to buy this from Gerald Wiley." I said, "Well, why don't you ring up the agent and see what he wants for it?" So I rang my own agent quickly and said, "Ask him 250 quid for it."
That was a very friendly thing to do.
Yes, quite. Yeah. That was when, before inflation, that was, you know. When you could get 3 penny for the chips and still get change from 6pence, you know, that sort of. Work that out. Now, takes a bit of time. Anyway, I said, "Ask 250 quid." So he rang up and said he wants 250 quid. He came and told me, Ronnie said, "He wants 250 pounds. I said, "Don't pay it. It's rubbish." Because I knew I was going to give him the sketch later on, you see. So he rang up and said, "No, I'm not going to have that." So eventually, I asked my agent to say that Gerald Wiley would like to give Ronnie Corbett the sketch because of, in appreciation of all he'd done, you know, in the performances in the previous sketches. So Ronnie said, "He's given it to me free. Oh, I must do something." He said, "I must go out and buy him a present." So he rushed out and bought 6 beautiful crystal glasses and presented them to me just on the last day. But he didn't present them to me. He left them at reception for Gerald Wiley. And then we all revealed it all. And I said, "Thanks very much for the glasses," and took them away. And he didn't know what to do.
That was a fairly large serving of Ronnie Barker there. So now let us treat ourselves to a little helping of Ronnie Corbett, talking again to Michael Parkinson.
Thank you very much. I'm a little bit nervous, you know, but it is one always is. I must say it was very, very encouraging, because as I walked on just now, a little bit nervous and tentative, a lady over there, I heard her say, "Doesn't he remind you of Clint Eastwood?" It was very nice. Made me relax.
Yes. Yes. There's, in fact, that's the sort of first question I wanted to ask you. Do you use humour as a sort of defence against your size?
I suppose in order to make other people feel comfortable and make them feel that I'm not worrying about it, you know, I naturally go to it, you know, for succour, you know, I mean, I grab at it. Yes. I mean, you know, I suppose it is. Yes, I suppose it is.
When did you first realise, in fact, that you were smaller than other people? It's a very good question. Because
it is a very good question.
It is an excellent question. No, I thought long and hard before I put it down.
Well, actually, I suppose my wedding day... No. The vicar shoved my head in the font and said, "I named this child Ronnie Corbett." No, because my wife and I actually met in the Hall of Mirrors, and she thought I was 7'6", so it was a bit... No, I suppose seriously, when everybody else was sprouting up at the age of 13 and 14 and going into long trousers, I realised I wasn't, and
going into long trousers.
I wasn't sprouting up or going into long trousers. No. And that was when it began to...
Did anybody ever try to increase your height at all?
Well, I had an aunt who was kind of anxious to get me to be a little bit taller, and she sent away for a course, 2 guinea course, and which didn't work. And I used to have to sort of stick pins in the wall and every morning and say every day and in every way, "I'm getting taller and taller." I obviously didn't say it with much conviction.
No. Let's talk about the development of your style. How did this style best described as kind of wandering monologue that you have now? How did that develop?
Well, that really developed because before the BBC days, when Ronnie and I were at London Weekend, we did some shows there. I did a show on Saturday night called The Corbett Follies, which was a big sort of glamour show with tall showgirls and a variety show, really. And I used to do monologue, and I used to, by accident, get lost in it, you know, and try to fumble my way out. And one day, Spike Mullins spoke to me in the canteen at London Weekend. He said, "I've been watching you fumbling away through these monologues to some effect." He said, "But I think that I could write them, the fumbles, better than, you know, you do them by accident," which was fairly obvious, I would have thought. And so Spike started writing the digressing monologues, and they're now written by David Renwick, who copies a style that Spike had written, and that's how it really evolved, really. A bit from me and a bit from Spike, you know, working in that way. And I like, so when I do cabaret and I do, I very much enjoy the feeling of talking as though something is not written, and therefore losing my way and seeming to be picking it out of the air, you know.
Yes.
That kind of...
Yes.
That appeals to me, that putting it together, like weaving it like a little bit of lace from putting a lot of jokes into making it prose, really.
Right. Do you have an example with me?
Well, it's a question of creeping into it so that people, I suppose, I mean, when I arrived, for example, at the studio tonight, and I parked the car, and Bert, the doorman, was there, you know Bert, a man of many parts, which nobody's ever seen because he's a bachelor. But anyway, I handed him. That's Bert, James. He's got fewer parts than I thought. Anyway, I went to reception. I got my key from the lady, the receptionist, a very forbidding lady with her hair in a bun and a nose in a cheese sandwich. And as I left the reception, the vicar was leaving, presumably having recorded the epilogue or something, I don't know. And I got to the dressing room, and as I opened the dressing room, it was in a terrible mess, and I thought it was the previous, whoever was in it yesterday hadn't. And anyway, as I thought there, shall I complain? I thought, no, I shall think of the vicar having left, and I'll tell tonight, when Michael asks me, a religious story. I thought because, as you all probably know, today is the last Thursday before, the last Saturday, sorry, before Sunday. Now, I know that sounds rather like a pathetic excuse to tell an old joke, and that's exactly what it is, because this joke needs an excuse, and if I could have thought of a better one, I would have done so. But actually, to be honest, I found this story in an old copy of the Radio Times. I was browsing through it, looking at a picture of Patrick Moore, Sky at Night, and wondering what it must be like to put your suit on with a shovel. My old dad used to say to me, remember Ron? He had a wonderful memory for names, my dad. Remember Ron? He had a habit of repeating himself as well. He said, remember Ron? He used to say, always remember the show must go on. Now, he was 40 years a centre lathe turner, so I don't know why I troubled to mention it, but he did. Anyway, the joke. This is about two vicars who meet in the street, and one of them says to the other, he says, woe is me, he said. Woe is me, some thieving parishioner has made off with my bike, and from now on it looks like Shanks's pony forever and ever, etc., etc. Or words to that effect. He didn't say etc., etc.
No.
I said that.
Yes.
I didn't want to say everything with Vickers.
No.
Otherwise, the story would go on forever. Good heavens, said his friend, lapsing into the professional jargon. By the way, please don't think I am knocking anyone's religion. You know, I wouldn't do that, believe me. I can't wait to see the Pope catch up with Dave Allen. Anyway, that'll cure his dandruff. Anyway, no, to be...
Well, the Pope.
The Pope. Oh, no, Dave Allen. Well, both of them, perhaps. Anyway, these two vicars talking about how one of them had his bike stolen, you see. Woe is me, says the one whose bike it was, you know. Yea, woe is you, said his friend. He said, what about the local police, he said. Oh, he said, I've thought about them, but I don't want to accuse anybody until I'm absolutely sure. Then his friend said, I have an idea, he said. Next Saturday, get up there and give them the full 10 Commandments, and when you get to thou shalt not steal, have a look for the red face, and that will be the one who purloined your velocipede. Now, I have a great temptation here to tell you the story about when Moses was in the desert, but I won't do that. One of them said, how did you get on about your bike? Now, we're getting near the end. Did the 10 Commandments idea work, he said, you see? And the other vicar said, yes, it worked marvellously. He said, when I got to thou shalt not commit adultery, I remembered where I'd left it. Now, that's it.
While Ronnie Corbett had his monologues, Ronnie Barker worked wonders with vocabulary. Whether it was a Spoonerism or a double entendre, he loved mixing words up and messing with their meanings.
You've just come back from a place where I've just returned from, Australia.
Oh, Australia?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you have a good time there?
Lovely place. Did you love it?
I
adored it. I thought it was beautiful. Sydney. I was staying in Sydney. Were you?
Yeah. Yes.
Beautiful. You fell in love with Sydney?
I didn't.
Does your wife know?
Oh, my God.
Oh, here we go. No. I thought
What
it
about
was lovely.
Adelaide? Did you fall in love with Adelaide?
Adelaide? No, I never got as far as her.
No.
Did you have a moment when you knew exactly the moment on stage when you knew that you could act? You knew you could do it?
Do it. Yeah, that was under the stage, actually, but we won't talk about that. No. I don't think I could put my finger on it, as they say. No, I don't. Please.
Was that on stage or under the stage?
No, I don't think I could. I think it was a gradual thing. I found that they kept giving me comedy parts, and that's what I liked. And I liked. It's, you know, you still love the thrill of a really big laugh. You know, it's still there. That's what makes you keep doing it.
And now let's move on to the present time because of the Two Ronnies, which is incredibly successful. And I suppose next to or alongside Eric and Ernie, you two, the Two Ronnies, are the best known and most popular comedians that we have in this country.
So far.
So far,
Yes.
yes. But what about the one thing that characterises, in fact, the show is that the sort of love you have for words, for wordplay.
Yes, I do love words. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I
I
mean-
do. Yeah, I'm always thinking. You know, I always think in terms of words. I'm not a visual man. You know, I mean, I'm always thinking words not only on the show, but you know, here and now. Like I love thinking of people's names backwards. You know, we've got the lovely lady, Miss Street, was coming on. She's I've forgotten what she is backwards. What is she backwards? Peart. She's Miss Peart. And then you've got Notting Knob coming on. haven't you?
Notting Knob.
Yes,
That's
Notting
Chris
Knob.
Bollington.
Chris Bollington, yes. And of course, you're Nosy Crap, you know.
I'm nosy. Yes, I know. You have, of course, again, you make a virtue of this in the Two Ronnies, because one of my favourite bits of it is the mispronunciation thing.
Oh, yes. Do you want a bit of that?
I'd like
I'll
a
give you a
bit
bit
of that. I like
I'll give you a bit of that. Good evening. Last year, I spoke to you appealing for help for those who, like myself, have trouble with worms. They can't pronounce their worms properly. Now, I am the secretary for the Loyal Society for the Relief of Sufferers from Mispronunciation. Now, the reason I'm once more squeaking to you tonight is that many people last time couldn't understand what I was spraying. So I'm back again on your little queens to strain it and make it all queer. It's a terrible thing to be ting-tied. It's even worse when your weirds get all muxed up and come out in say that you dick not what you're thunging be. Like I did just then, only crutch much nurse. No, it can be cured by careful draining at special draining stools, which the Society has fed up all over the Twittish Isles. And for the really dicky-felt cases, we have a 3-year bash course on the Isle of Fright. But the disease is spreading. It affects people from all walks of loaf, members of the swivel service, lawyers, silly sodders, commercial dribblers, cop sheepers and waxy firkers, especially on the nightshirt. And famous piddlyticians like Widley Hamilton, not forgetting, of course, Peanock Owl, stars of Screech and Stain like Black Mygraves, Frantic Howard and Peculiar Clark, and, of course, rude old Norieff, the ballet dangler.
Amongst the things that made the Two Ronnies different to other double acts was the fact that they both had individual successes alongside the Two Ronnies show. Ronnie Barker had Porridge and Open All Hours. Ronnie Corbett played the son of a domineering mother in the sitcom Sorry. And sorry is what he ended up saying a lot at the end of this interview with Terry Wogan. Just watch how it unfurls.
I'm sorry to have been so long in getting here.
Yes, I know. You were in Australia.
Yes, I've been in Australia. I nearly didn't make it today, to be honest, either.
Why?
Had a very nasty accident this morning at home. I was cleaning out the budgie cage and the door slammed on me. I was stuck in there for an hour and a half, Terry. It was awful. And I thought, ring the bell, you know. I'm sorry, I panic into these jokes.
What about your solo vehicle? You're pleased, you must be, with the success of Sorry.
Sorry, yes, I enjoy doing it.
You identify with poor old put-upon Timothy Lumsden?
With Tim, not truly, but I can see, I've been told that a lot of people come up to me and say, a lot of people write and say, you may think this is, you know, over the top, but, I mean, I know somebody who lives like this. I know who a mother and son... And if it isn't true throughout, there are elements of it that people see and think, God, that's me. My God. I even see myself as a father saying, my God, you know, as a parent, behaving like that.
There's no elements of Timothy Lumsden in you, do you think?
I don't things.
No, I don't mean that as a slur on your mother.
I don't talk to my mother much about the show. She pretends she doesn't see it. She says, oh, it's a thing, I believe it. Yes,
Yeah, but Timothy seems to be well adjusted to at least the problem of his size. I mean, would you say that's true of you as well? I mean, or was that a terrific struggle for you early on to come to terms?
Not a terrific struggle, but I suppose I worried about it like you do as a teenager. But somebody, you've got to worry. So everybody worries about something, whether it be spots or, you know, or overweight. Or so I worried a bit about it. But in the end, it's been my kind of the whole kernel about it, and the start of my wanting to be in the business, and the whole making of what is that now. And without it, I mean, I dread to think what happened if, you know, if there was something they could do, it suddenly made me shoot up. You know, I wouldn't.
Well, you could take Ronnie Barker's part. He could be the small.
Shoot out.
Small faction. Do you get any month? Do you get?
I said if we got separated, you were to go straight to the Lost Children's.
Mother, I am 42.
What is this place? Looks like the alien lounge at Luton Airport.
Excuse me, Mother, I am being interviewed.
What? I've told you about talking to strange men.
Excuse me, this is... I'm sorry, excuse me. This is Terry Wogan.
How do you do?
How do you do, Mrs. Lamb?
Is he wearing a D-mob suit? I've never met a Wogan before. But there must be lots of you in the telephone directory. Never trust a man with borrowed teeth, Timothy. Oh, well, all good things must come to an end.
I'm sorry.
Now, say thank you to this gentleman, whoever he is.
I'm sorry, Terry, I'm sorry.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
And don't ever let me catch you talking to him again.
If people thought Ronnie Corbett was just like Timothy Lumsden, with Ronnie Barker it was impossible to say if he was more like Fletcher from Porridge or Arkwright from Open All Hours. One reason for that was that Barker was a genius with voices, which is something he discusses here.
I was going to ask you about the varicose and various parts. In the course of
Course? How do you spell that?
In the course of your television series. My God, I'll get this question out if it
Go
kills
on.
me. In the course of your television series.
Yes? In the course of my television series,
I
do
remember
what?
talking...
What was the first half of the
I
question?
remember... Why are my questions longer than your answers? Beryl Reid telling me that when she starts to take on a character... No, she didn't tell me now.
I thought
She-
you'd come on.
She said she starts from the shoes. She gets a pair of shoes and builds the character from the
She's
shoes.
told me that, yes, it's
Yeah,
true, yes,
yeah.
yes. Because she hobbles about the house in the shoes.
Never mind that.
Oh, sorry.
How do you construct a character? Do you take it from the shoes
I start
up
with
or
the
the
voice.
underwear?
The voice. The voice. I think of the voice first. I think, you know, I just like to hear the sound of the voice or whatever it is. Or, you know, Fletcher, I mean, you know, naff off. That's my expression. That's Fletcher's expression, you know, naff off. It's not...
It's not Princess Anne.
No. Naff off, son. Go on. Yeah. And then from the voice comes the face, I think. The Welsh one, you know, Welsh, you see. Your eyes go like that. I think accents come... I don't know if it's accents cause the shape of the face or the shape of the face. I think it's the shape of the face that causes the accent. I think because French people, their faces under there. Scottish people, if you all put your face like that and speak normally, you sound quite Scottish, you know.
Are you a funny man at home?
No, I never go home, no. I'm sort of... sometimes I'm funny. I make my wife laugh. She'd laugh to see a pudding crawl, as they say.
Well, that's the essence of a happy marriage, as long as you can make your wife
Oh,
laugh.
yes. Well, I made her laugh the first night. Oh, yes.
about this Corbett person that you work with? How do you
No,
get
he's a
on?
man. He's a man.
Is he?
Man, yes.
How do you,
talk.
how do you get on with him?
Eh?
How do you get on with him?
Just throw
Now,
my leg over.
Let's have the truth.
Well, I take him out in the morning, fit him up, and work through the day, put him back in the box. Nice as fun. No, we get on we have a lovely time.
Despite their closeness and the obvious affection they had for each other, it was rare for the two Ronnies to be interviewed together. But here we have one of those moments capturing them in 1978 after they'd both received OBEs from the Queen.
Can you describe the ceremony?
Describe the ceremony.
It was rather moving, wasn't it?
Yes,
rather
I thought the bride's father was wonderful. No, it was. It was lovely.
nerve-wracking and sort of moving, really.
Yes, very.
You got very nervous. We both had to go to the spend a penny, didn't we?
Yes, I had to use the royal we twice.
Yes, yeah.
What did the Queen say to you?
She said that she was very pleased that to be able to be doing this for us because she thought it was rather nice to make people laugh in these days when perhaps there wasn't quite so much to laugh about, she
Yes.
said. I
Then
didn't
she
know whether
said-
to agree with her about that.
Then she said, are you going to be on the stage again together? And I said, we have never appeared on the stage before, but we are going to at the Palladium for the summer. And
She
I had
said-
the temerity to ask her to come.
Yes, and she
And she
said,
said she would.
Yes, which was rather nice. We were surprised how few staff there were in the place
Yes,
because at the
yeah.
end of the ceremony, Her Majesty Queen swept down the staircase, didn't she? Then
Yes.
she dusted the mantelpiece and did a little hoovering and then went out.
That was lovely. It was very, very, very impressive.
Actually, I can't stay very long because I've got to be back on a wedding cake at 3 o'clock. So I
No, it's not true, not true. He gets all his clothes from Action Man.
That moment contains everything wonderful about the Ronnies B and C. Even on a hugely significant occasion, they just couldn't stop trying to make it funny, just like they never ever missed an opportunity to make the British public laugh.
Well, that's all we have time for this week. Next week we'll talk to a man... Next week we'll talk to a man who crossed a table tennis ball with an extremely tall chamber pot and got a ping-pong piddle high po.
And in the divorce court today, an 85-year-old farmer divorced his 17-year-old wife because he couldn't keep his hands off her. He's now sacked all his hands and bought a combine harvester.
That's all we've got time for this evening, so it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Good night.
Night.
Good night.